My sister took me in after my divorce, then I found her messages to my ex. When my marriage ended, I thought the worst part would be losing him. I didn't realize it would be everything else too: my home, my sense of stability, the silence that waited in every corner of my empty apartment. I lasted 2 weeks on my own before I broke down crying on my sister's porch, suitcase in hand, mascara streaked across my face. Maya opened the door with that worried half-smile she always wore when I was falling apart. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me, stepped aside, and said, "Stay as long as you need." I moved into her guest room that night. It was supposed to be temporary. Just until I could find a new place, get back on my feet, figure out what life looked like after everything fell apart. My husband, Aaron, and I had been together for 8 years. Married for 6. And in that time, I never thought once that he would stop loving me. I knew we had problems. Everyone does. But I thought we were in it together. Until he came home one night, sat me down, and told me he wasn't happy. That he hadn't been for a while. No cheating, he said. No one else. Just unhappiness. Just tired. It hurt, but I believed him. Living with Maya was strange at first. Her apartment was smaller, brighter, full of books and plants and things that didn't belong to me. But she made space. Cleared out drawers. Let me take the good pillow. We watched bad movies at night and ate too much ice cream. She kept me laughing when I thought I'd forgotten how. She was my anchor. When I finally got a call about a job interview, she lent me one of her blazers and told me I looked like a boss. When I cried on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., she sat beside me and rubbed my back without saying a word. I told her everything. How Aaron used to bring me coffee in bed on Sundays. How he stopped holding my hand in public about a year before the split. How I missed the sound of his voice, even though I hated him for how he left. Maya listened like she always had. Patient. Kind. So when I started seeing signs that something was off, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. The first time it happened, I was in the kitchen pouring wine when Maya's phone buzzed on the counter. Her screen lit up with a message, "That night in the car." I keep thinking about it. No name. Just the message. I looked away before I could see more. Told myself it was none of my business. Maybe she was seeing someone. Maybe it was nothing. But something inside me shifted. Later that night, I asked her if she was dating. She shrugged. Not really. Just talking to a couple people. Nothing serious. I nodded. Smiled. Let it go. But I didn't let it go. Because the way she locked her phone afterward felt forced. The way she avoided eye contact when I asked reminded me of the way Aaron used to look at me when he started pulling away. And deep down I felt it. That itch you try to ignore when your gut knows something your heart doesn't want to believe. 2 nights later, I opened her laptop to check my email. A message popped up before I even typed a word. It was from Aaron. At first, I just froze. My hand hovered over the mouse, heart pounding like I'd been caught doing something wrong. But I hadn't touched anything yet. The message had just appeared. Like it wanted to be seen. Aaron, Maya, we probably shouldn't talk about that anymore. It's complicated enough already. I stared at it for what felt like forever. Then, carefully, I scrolled up. The laptop wasn't locked. Her messages were open. I could see the whole thread. It wasn't new either. The first message between them was dated over a year ago. A year. They had been talking while Aaron and I were still married. At first, it was innocent. Comments on each other's Instagram stories. Little jokes. But slowly it shifted. Flirting disguised as humor. Personal confessions. Complaints about me that Aaron shared far too casually, and Maya's responses were worse. She agreed with him. About how I could be moody. Controlling. Dramatic. There was even one message where she said, "You deserve someone who actually sees you." That broke something in me. I kept reading. I told myself I'd stop. I told myself I didn't want to see more. But I kept going anyway. I found the message from the night of our anniversary last year, the night Aaron said he had to work late. He had texted Maya instead. They met up. He told her he couldn't stop thinking about her. She told him she felt the same. I scrolled through photos. Nothing explicit. Just one of a wine glass in her car. one of his shoes resting on her coffee table. A blurry selfie of the two of them smiling in low light. There was a video too, but I couldn't open it. I didn't want to hear their voices together. The air in the room felt heavy, like it was pushing down on my chest. I shut the laptop gently, got up, and walked to the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the tub with the shower running, just to mask the sound of me breathing too fast. How long had this been going on? Had it started before the divorce? Had they slept together while I was still trying to save my marriage? And why had Maya let me sob in her arms about a man she knew was already halfway hers? I thought about all the nights she held my hand. The mornings she made coffee and smiled like nothing was wrong. All of it was fake. Or maybe not fake, maybe it was her way of trying to feel less guilty. It didn't matter. The betrayal was the same. When I came out of the bathroom, Maya was in the living room in her pajamas, curled up with a blanket and a bowl of popcorn. "You okay?" she asked, barely looking up. I nodded. "Yeah, just needed a minute." She smiled. "You've been so strong through all this. I don't know how you do it." I stared at her for a long moment. Neither did I. Not anymore. I barely slept that night. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together the exact moment everything had started to unravel. Was it last year? Earlier? I kept replaying old memories, looking for signs I had missed. Things Aaron said. The times Maya changed the subject when I brought him up. It was all there. I just didn't want to see it. The next morning I felt hollow. Like someone had reached into my chest and taken everything. My voice, my sense of safety, the trust I'd been clinging to since the divorce gone. I made coffee quietly and avoided eye contact with Maya as she breezed into the kitchen, humming and checking her phone. She said something about meeting a friend for brunch. I nodded and sipped my coffee. The smell made me sick. I waited until she left. Then I opened the laptop again. I told myself it was because I needed clarity. I needed to know how far it had gone. But the truth was uglier. I wanted confirmation. I wanted the pain to be real enough to justify the storm building inside me. The messages went deeper than I'd realized. Aaron and Maya talked about me like I was a project. Like I was something to be handled, not someone to love. He would complain about how I overanalyzed everything, how I sucked the fun out of life, and she would laugh. She once called me emotionally exhausting. That one stuck. There was one message where Aaron said, "You get me in ways she never did." And Maya replied, "You've always deserved better." Maybe this was meant to happen. Meant to happen. My marriage falling apart, my life crashing down, my entire sense of self unraveling, all meant to happen so they could fall into each other's arms. I felt something snap inside me. But instead of screaming or throwing something or packing my things, I did something else. Something colder. I took screenshots. Every message. Every date. Every timestamp. I saved them in a folder on my phone labeled Truth. I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet. I wasn't sure if I'd confront Maya or Aaron or both. Part of me wanted to walk into the living room and throw the laptop at her feet. But another part of me wanted her to feel what I felt, confusion, fear, betrayal, before I said a single word. Later that day, I asked her what she thought ruined my marriage. She looked up from her phone, surprised. "What do you mean? What do you think went wrong?" I said, "With me and Aaron." She paused, thinking. "Honestly? I think you guys just stopped making each other happy. It happens. Not every marriage lasts." I stared at her. She sipped her drink and smiled. "But you're stronger now, right? You're learning who you are without him." That line sounded familiar. Too familiar. I had seen it in her messages. Word for word. My hands were shaking, but I kept my face still. "Yeah, I guess I am." Because maybe now I was learning who I was without both of them. That evening, I went out for a walk. I told Maya I needed fresh air, and she nodded like she believed me. Maybe she did. Maybe she thought I was just spiraling through another emotional slump and didn't suspect a thing. But I wasn't spiraling. Not anymore. I was waking up. The city felt colder than usual. The wind cut through my jacket as I walked aimlessly down familiar streets, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. My phone buzzed twice in my pocket. I didn't need to look. I knew it was Aaron. The timing was too perfect. When I finally sat on a park bench, I checked the message. Aaron. Hope you're okay. Maya said you've been having a rough week. I stared at it, my jaw tightening. She had been talking to him about me again. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot instead. Another one for the folder. On the walk back, I started rehearsing what I might say. Should I wait until they were together? Catch them in the same room? Should I send the screenshots to our family group chat and let the whole thing explode on its own? But revenge didn't feel right. Not yet. I still wanted answers more than I wanted chaos. When I got home, Maya was on the couch watching some reality show, feet tucked under her, eating popcorn like nothing had changed. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, just looking at her. The sister I had known all my life, or thought I had. She glanced up. You okay? Yeah, I said. Just cold. Wanna watch with me? I shook my head and walked to the kitchen, pretending to get water. That night, while she slept, I packed half my things into my suitcase and zipped it up quietly. I left the suitcase under the bed. I wasn't running, not yet. But I wanted to be ready. Because something was coming. A confrontation. A collapse. A moment that couldn't be undone. I didn't know when it would happen, but I could feel it circling. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of pancakes. Maya was in a good mood, singing along to her playlist, flipping pancakes like we were 16 again. I sat at the counter and watched her. She noticed. You're quiet. Just tired. She slid a plate toward me. I thought we could do something today. Maybe get out of the apartment. Go shopping. Just us. Just us. Like we were still sisters, still close, still safe. I smiled faintly. Sure. Sounds good. We spent the day like normal. Laughed at overpriced sweaters. Took selfies at lunch. To anyone else watching, we looked like best friends. But I was counting the cracks. Watching her eyes, her voice, the way she reacted every time her phone buzzed. Every little detail felt like another piece of the truth I wasn't supposed to know. By the time we got home, I had made my decision. Tomorrow, I would confront her. Not with rage. Not with drama. But with the truth. And I wanted to see if she would even try to lie. The next morning, I didn't rush it. I waited until she had her coffee, until she was scrolling her phone with one leg tucked under the other like she always did. It was quiet, and the sun coming through the window made everything look too peaceful, too soft for what was coming. I sat across from her and said, "Can I ask you something?" She glanced up, smiling. "Of course." I swallowed hard. "Did anything ever happen between you and Aaron? Before the divorce?" Her smile twitched just slightly, like her brain was buying time. She blinked slowly. "What?" "You heard me." She laughed once. "Are you serious?" "I am." She looked down, exhaled through her nose, then set her mug down with a small clink. "No, nothing happened. I mean, we talked sometimes. He reached out a few times when you two were having problems, but it was just venting. That's all." I nodded slowly. "So nothing emotional? No, nothing physical?" She looked at me now, directly. "Absolutely not." And that's when I knew she was lying. Because Maya always blinked exactly once when she lied. It was something I noticed when we were kids. A small, sharp blink, like her brain short-circuited just a second too long. She blinked just like that before saying absolutely not. I reached into my sweater pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened the folder labeled Truth and slid the phone across the table. Her expression didn't change at first. She just looked down at the screen, scrolling slowly through the screenshots. Her mouth parted, just slightly. I saw her eyes dart left and right, reading fast. Her hands started to tremble just barely as she reached the final few images. She didn't look up. I said nothing, just waited. Finally, she put the phone down and pushed it back across the table. "I don't know what you want me to say. I want the truth." "I don't owe you anything," she said quietly. "You moved in here. You dumped your life in my lap. I tried to be supportive. But do you even know how exhausting it was listening to you cry about a man who never loved you?" My breath caught in my throat. She continued, "Aaron didn't leave you for me. He left you because you stopped seeing him. You were too focused on your sadness, your control, your constant expectations. He felt suffocated. He told me everything. And you encouraged him, I said, my voice sharper now. You validated it. You met up with him. You hid it. You let me fall apart on your couch while you built something behind my back. Her face flushed. I didn't plan for it. It just happened. We talked, and it grew into something more. I didn't mean to betray you. But you did. She stood up suddenly, pushing the chair back with a screech against the tile. So what now? You pack your bags and leave? You send the screenshots to everyone? You blow it all up. I stayed seated. No, I said calmly. I'm done pretending I don't know who you really are. That's enough for me. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry I found out. I stood up, walked to my room, and zipped the suitcase I had packed the night before. It was time to go. I didn't say goodbye. There was nothing left to say. I wheeled my suitcase down the hall while Maya stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, silent. She didn't try to stop me. She didn't offer some last-minute excuse or apology. Maybe she thought I was bluffing. Maybe she didn't care. Outside, the air was sharp and dry. I climbed into a rideshare and kept my head turned toward the window the entire way to the hotel. I had booked a room the night before, knowing I couldn't sleep under her roof another night. It wasn't much, just a quiet corner suite near my old office, but it felt like mine. For the first time in months, I shut a door behind me and felt something close, not just physically, but emotionally. Like I had finally ended a chapter one didn't even realize I was stuck in. I laid on the bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the version of my life I had believed in. Aaron and I building a future. Maya cheering me on. The people I thought I could fall apart in front of without fear. I had been wrong about both of them. I wasn't angry anymore. That part had burned out. Now it was just grief. Not just for the marriage or the betrayal, but for the loss of something deeper, the belief that someone would always have my back. The idea that family meant safety. Later that evening, I ordered dinner and left my phone untouched for hours. I didn't want to see notifications. I didn't want to read half-hearted texts or missed calls. I just wanted silence. When I finally opened it, there were 7 messages from Aaron. That said, she told me you know. Can we talk? It wasn't what you think. We didn't mean to hurt you. I still care about you. Please don't tell everyone. This doesn't need to get ugly. I stared at the last one the longest. This doesn't need to get ugly. Like I was the one threatening peace. Like I was the one with something to hide. That was always Aaron's pattern. He could light a fire and then ask why you were screaming about the smoke. I typed one sentence, which said, "You already made it ugly." Then I blocked his number. The next morning, I sent one email. It wasn't to my parents or mutual friends or even to Maya. It was to myself. I attached every screenshot, every photo, every piece of evidence. I titled it Proof. I did it so that if one day I doubted myself, if someone tried to twist the story, I'd have it all. A reminder that I wasn't crazy, that it happened. And then I left it alone. I didn't post about it. I didn't expose them. I didn't rage. I healed. Slowly. Quietly. One step at a time. I got a new apartment a few weeks later. Smaller than the last, but filled with sunlight. I started sleeping through the night. I even laughed again. Real laughter, not the kind you force for other people's comfort. It took time, but I rebuilt something they could never take from me, my peace. And I never looked back. The weeks that followed were quiet. I kept expecting some kind of fallout, some message from Maya or Aaron that would drag me back into their drama. But nothing came. No apology, no defense, not even an angry outburst. Just silence. At first, it unsettled me. I had braced for chaos, some kind of storm after everything I discovered. But then I realized the silence wasn't a threat. It was a gift. For once, I had taken control of my story, and they didn't get to rewrite it. I went back to work part-time. It felt strange returning to routine, like putting on clothes that didn't quite fit anymore. People asked how I was doing, and I gave them the kind of smile that answered just enough. Most didn't press. The ones who mattered already knew something big had changed in me. I stopped talking about Maya. I stopped mentioning Aaron. Not because I was pretending it hadn't happened, but because they no longer deserved space in my conversations. One afternoon, while reorganizing some boxes in my new place, I found an old photo of the three of us. It was from a trip we took 3 years ago, back when Aaron and I still laughed easily and Maya used to braid my hair before we went out. In the picture, we were standing on a rocky trail near a waterfall, all smiling like we had nothing but time ahead of us. I stared at it for a long while. Then I tore it in half and dropped the pieces into the trash. Some memories don't need preserving. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. At first, I ignored it. But something about the timing made me open it. Maya, I just want you to know I never meant for it to happen that way. I didn't plan any of it. I didn't think he would leave you. I stared at the message, fingers resting on the screen. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I was wrong. Just more excuses. I didn't reply. Instead, I muted the number and turned my phone face down. A few days later, I ran into someone unexpected at the grocery store. Olivia, a mutual friend from before everything went south, stood frozen in front of the produce section holding a bag of apples. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Hey, she said cautiously. Hey. She hesitated. I heard about everything. I nodded. I figured. I just want to say I believe you. Maya always had a way of making things sound like her idea of the truth. But you didn't deserve that. For the first time in a while, I felt something warm in my chest. Not quite relief, but something close to it. Thanks, I said. That means more than you know. We talked for a few more minutes, nothing deep. Just light chatter, like two people who had once shared a circle and were learning how to circle back. She gave me her number again and said we should catch up sometime. I left the store with more than groceries. I left with a reminder that not everyone had betrayed me. That some people still saw me for who I really was. And that maybe, just maybe, life after the worst parts could still hold something good. Healing didn't come in some grand moment. It came in pieces. Small ones. A quiet morning when I didn't think about Aaron. An evening where I lit a candle, read a book, and felt something close to peace. A phone call from an old friend who asked how I was doing and genuinely listened when I said, I'm getting better. It came when I stopped asking why they did it. When I stopped trying to make sense of betrayal. Sometimes people hurt you not because you failed them, but because they couldn't handle your strength. Because they wanted what you had. Because they didn't know how to love without conditions. One day, I walked past a cafe where Aaron and I used to go. I stopped for a moment, thinking I might feel something. But I didn't. Not anger, not sadness, not even nostalgia. Just stillness. That's how I knew I was free. I thought about Maya too. Not constantly, but in flashes. Sometimes I wondered if she and Aaron were still seeing each other. I never checked. I never needed to. That chapter was closed. Somewhere deep inside, I knew that if they did stay together, it wouldn't last. They were built on lies, on sneaking and secrets and shared blame. That kind of bond doesn't hold. It rots from the inside. But that wasn't my concern anymore. What mattered was that I had survived it. Not just the divorce, but the second betrayal that could have broken me even more than the first. I had stepped into that pain, sat with it, and walked out whole. And in the process, I had learned something. I had been loyal to the wrong people. I had given my love, my trust, my forgiveness to people who treated it like convenience. But now, moving forward, I would give those things carefully. Fully, yes, but only to those who had earned it. One afternoon, I lit a candle in my living room and played soft music while folding laundry. It was such an ordinary thing, so mundane, but it felt sacred. It felt like proof. I had made it. I had my own space, my own rhythm. I was no longer waiting to be rescued or understood. I was enough. A week later, I saw Maya's name again. This time in a forwarded email from my mother about a family reunion. She'll be there, the email read. Hope you can come. I stared at the message for a while, then closed it without replying. Maybe one day I would see her again. Maybe one day we would have a conversation. But I didn't know her that yet. Maybe not ever. Forgiveness isn't something you rush to hand out like candy. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. So that's what I chose. Not revenge. Not a dramatic speech. Just silence. And the steady rebuilding of a life I could trust again.